Cut.
Cut.
We are Mike and Jeannie, and we restore old houses. In 2021, we moved to South Carolina and bought a 120-year-old Victorian house. Follow along as we put the polish back on this Victorian masterpiece.
Welcome back to 1834 Restoration House.
Today we have some exciting projects going on. We're working on the HVAC system and actually building stuff today.
Ooh.
Yeah, but before we do that, I want to show you a couple of things.
Today's program is sponsored by the generous support of our patrons. Your support helps to further our historic preservation efforts. For more information, visit patreon.com/1834 Restoration House. Our great magnolia has bloomed. Look at those. Aren't they beautiful? It smells so good. Oh, I wish you could smell it. In last week's video, we had the whole garden all overgrown. The boxes were here and it was a disaster area. It looked awful. And we took out the beds and Mike mowed all the yard up and there was the little black fabric pieces everywhere. Well, we waited till the evening that night to come out here and rake it up and clean it up and pick up all the little black fabric pieces. But it does look a whole lot better. Now we just need a little bit of rain and let the grass grow back again.
We are building a bypass for our current HVAC system. Now the reason I'm doing that is because there's a bunch of ducts that are coming out of there and they're in the way. It's an impenetrable wall of ducting and I need those ducts out of the way so I can get through there. The whole side of the house over here, I can't get to because of those ducts. So the first thing to do is design a transition coming out of the furnace, and I have that for you now. This is a diagram of our existing furnace, and it shows here that there are two outlets here. Well, actually, one is an outlet, one is an inlet, and that's called supply and return, but it tells us how big those are. And so what I need to do is make some sheet metal boxes that'll come off of here, go through the foundation wall, and give us a place where we can attach our transitions to. This is a whiteboard rendering of what we're going to do. We have a 16-inch by 16-inch opening. So what my plan is to cut a strip of sheet metal that is 66 inches long. And here's why. So I have top, side, bottom, side. And this whole thing will fold together up into a metal box. And I need to go 16 inches. But I need to have that just a little bit bigger than 16 so that I have enough room to fit over the flanges that are here on the furnace. So I'm going to make each side 16 1/4 inches. And you multiply that by 4. And then add 1 inch for a lock tab to put it together. We get 66 inches. This thing that looks like a Jacob's ladder right here, these are called cross breaks. And that's a deliberate bend that we put in the sheet metal to keep it from popping every time the air comes on and off. And then you can see the fold lines here. And this one here is a tab line. Now these two lines down the sides, these are going to be tabs that we use to A, connect the furnace, and B, connect the next section of ducting. So I don't want to get too technical with you guys because I know this is not a sheet metal channel and most of you really don't care about that stuff. But that's what we're up against and that was kind of what I figured out. We're going to go ahead and start cutting some metal and let's put something together. That 66 inches I talked about a minute ago, that's going to be down this way, 66 inches. But as it turns out, we need 2 of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to whack off 66 inches and then I'm going to whack it off down the middle here and that'll give us 2 nice strips that we can work with. Next thing I'm going to do is lay out my bend lines. I actually have better accuracy if I use a longer measuring device. So I had 16 1/4. So now I want 32 1/2. And then from there I want another 16 1/4. And 32 1/2. Let's connect the dots. Okay, so that leaves us with 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 1 tab which we'll use to close the box and connect it up together. You'll see that in a minute. Both pieces of sheet metal need to have 1-inch tab marks all the way down each side. Now I need to cut some tabs. And this is to relieve the corners so that things connect up together. I've cut all these tabs here. That allows me to fold the box and fold the tabs without any interference. So now I have to do the same thing to all other 3 sides. Okay, I set up a table here so that I can work. Now I put down a nice carpet runner, and let me show you why. This sheet metal needs to have cross breaks put in it. It's kind of a diamond pattern, and it's really simple to do. And the reason I put a soft surface under there is because I need the sheet metal to flex a little bit when I do this. I'm going to go ahead and strike my straight edge across from corner to corner. And then I'm going to take this tool right here and just give it a push straight down like that. Okay, so what that did is it put a slight crease in the metal. That wouldn't work if I was on a hard surface, because you would be pushing against metal, which is pushing against a hard surface, and nothing would give. But this way, the carpet has enough give to it that the metal can kind of crush down into it. I'll go ahead and do the other side. Just like that. Okay, let me show you real quick how that looks. I flipped it over so you can see it better. It's kind of a diamond pattern, and it's not there for good looks, even though it does look good. But what it does is, you see how floppy that is right there? Now you compare this section here. This section here is much stiffer, and that's the reason we do it. It's just to stiffen up the sheet metal. Now that the cross breaks are in place, the sheet metal is noticeably stiffer when I move it around. All right, I have this nice piece of wood right here, And I'm going to use this to make a makeshift bending brake. So what I can do is just grab hold of this and pull up on it. See how that bent up? Now I could muscle that all day and get it perfect, or I can speed things up with a mallet. So I'm going to go ahead and speed it up with a mallet. At some point, I hit resistance, and that's the board, and it's not going to go any further. But that's just about perfect right there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the next section, being careful not to poke myself with that sharp sheet metal there. Okay, so now that it's kind of sort of bent, let's go ahead and put our hearing protection on. I'm going to turn you guys off and get busy on the next one. Okay, we have one more bend, so we'll flip this around and then do the same thing over again. I'm coming right to the edge of the table. Let's make sure everything is perfectly lined up there. All right, do you like it?
I like it.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the hand bend just to kind of get things started.
Okay.
All right, so here we have the basics of a box. And yeah, that stuff is sharp. So it's kind of floppy right now and things don't fit together quite like they're supposed to, but it will. Just be patient. And yes, I did cut myself.
Bound to happen every time.
I know it. A few minutes ago, I marked out these tabs and I also cut the corners to relieve them. So I have a special tool right here. And this special tool is a bender, and it's made for bending sheet metal. I'll just go ahead and slip it on here and give it a pull. Pushing down while I'm pulling up, basically. Okay, then I'm going to come over here and do the same thing on this end. They come in different lengths. This one here is a 12-inch. Let's go ahead and pull it back on here a little bit. Right now, I'm just going to go ahead and put a little more muscle into it, but I'm working my way down. I'm not doing the whole thing all at once. If I had a longer one of these, I could do the whole thing at once, but I just don't have one that long. I'm not a professional sheet metal guy, so it's hard to justify some tools. Okay, it's just about there. And there we have it, our first bend, and I'll show you why we did that. This is called S-cleat, and it's going to hold our two ends together. I have 16 inches here, but if I make it 16 inches, it will interfere with the opposite corners. So I'm going to go ahead and knock off a 1/4 inch and make it 15 3/4. I crushed it, so now I have to open it back up again. The next thing I'm going to do is attach my cleat. Just like that. And now I can take this tab here and lock it down in to here. I want to get it to where it's pretty straight. So let's set this up on the table for a second. There we go. I just wanted to make sure that everything sat down correctly. All right, this joint here by itself isn't permanent. It could actually slide apart. So I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of screws in there to hold it. These are ordinary HVAC type sheet metal screws. This side popped up just a little bit, and just so I don't mess things up when I install it, I'm going to go ahead and make this one the side that goes up against the furnace. So I need to take these, and I need to use the 1-inch bender and start bending these down. Okay, there's one. I'm going to go ahead and do all the rest and then come back. All right, here it is after having all 4 flanges bent. Now see, it's still pretty wobbly in this direction, but there is no wobble in that direction. And it's a lot stiffer, so the more work I do to it, the better it gets. All right, the next step is when you have 2 metal ducts that come together, you always have opposite cleats being the same. So your top and bottom cleats are S cleats, your side cleats are drive cleats. We'll get into that more in a minute. But the important thing is to know that they have to be different. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this at the top, like that. That tells me when I'm building it what direction is up, and also when I'm putting it in, which end is up, because otherwise I might forget. We don't want that. Okay, now, I've determined that the top and the bottom tabs need to be left alone with nothing else done to them. I turned my duct on its side, and I'm going to be using the 1/2 inch side this time. And I'm just going to go ahead and start working it slowly because I don't want to bend anything out of shape. I'm going to go back and forth and just keep working it. Okay, last time I stopped here, but this time I have to keep going. It's going to go around like this. I'm looking for a 100% fold back this time. Okay, that's as far as I can get with that. Now, I have another tool that I can use to pull that down a little bit further. This is an aircraft hand seamer, and it just happens to work really well for this. I'm going to go ahead and just crimp it down a bit. I'll just go down the line and work it back and forth a couple of times. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let me go grab a section of cleat and we'll see if it fits. All right, I have a section of drive cleat here. I'm going to go ahead and put it on here like this. And the idea is that you put it on two flanges on two different adjacent ducts, and then you drive the cleat in place, and that holds them together like that. So everything is looking really good so far. And just like that, this transition is done. Look how much stiffer this thing is. We've cross-braked it on all sides, put flanges on it. It is nice and stiff. And once this goes together with an adjacent assembly, it's going to be super strong. So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. We'll build another one and then we'll come back. All right, you guys, we have two beautiful boxes here. One will be the supply, one will be the return. They'll both bolt up to the air conditioning unit and then go on out to the rest of the house. But in this case, what I've done is I've turned them around so that I can demonstrate how the sections of ductwork fit together. It's actually very clever. The HVAC industry has come up with such a simple yet elegant way of doing this. So I'm going to take a piece of what they call S-cleat and slide it on one of these tabs here. About like that. And then I'm going to take this other section and fit that tab in there like that. And just basically push them together. And I want them to come together like that. Now, these are nicely tabbed in. And then I have these two pieces here that have been folded over away from themselves. Now I can take a piece of what they call the drive cleat. Drive cleat comes in from the top, hooks onto those, push it down, done. And that's how we hook our duct sections together. Now this thing, of course, would be bent over and screws put in it so that it doesn't move. But there is one more thing that we have to do before we could consider that done, and that is we have to seal that duct. Now, a couple of ways of doing that are either mastic tape, which is a special tape that's made especially for air conditioning ducts. And it's got this gummy, gooey, kind of sticky stuff on it. It's not really sticky, but it's more like a, I don't know, what would you call it? Like a layer of goo, I guess. Anyway, it goes on there like that and seals it up really good. And it has a foil tape, so it looks nice and professional. The other way is duct mastic, which you literally slather on with a brush. And if you're a real artist, you can make it look really nice. And that's how we seal those up. Okay, so we're going to take this apart and we're going to get on with the next part of this project. This piece here is a piece of manufactured ducting, and these come in two halves, and you have to basically clamp them together to make one whole duct. Now I'm looking at the construction of this thing, and compared to what we did yesterday, we have end tabs, we have side tabs, we have cleat tabs over here, and we have Pittsburgh tabs, which is something that I'm not capable of doing. But I'm looking at this thing, and I believe that we have everything that we need, skills-wise, to be able to make these ourselves. And I think that would be less expensive than buying the manufactured ones. So, let's go ahead and grab another one and put it together. All right, Jeannie's going to help me with this one. So what we're going to do is pick it up, and we'll just set that edge on there for now.
Okay.
And then I'm going to come over here and see if I can line this up, this one edge. The way they've done this, once you pound it together, it doesn't unpound. So I need to make sure that it's right.
All right.
Let's see, I'm just going to hold that right there.
Okay.
Okay, let me grab a level. All right, we confirmed where it's supposed to be, so Jeannie's going to go ahead and lift up on that and hold it in place. I'll go ahead and get this corner started here. All right, go ahead and, yeah, you can pull it back just to here. Okay, I'm going to set this down so it doesn't move.
Feels good and solid.
Yeah, it looks better too. Okay, the next thing I want to do is the other side here. Now, what I did is, because we had to re-bend this one, I went ahead and bended this one off camera. So I should be able to just go ahead and set that in.
Do we want to flip this over? It's easier to hammer it down again.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. So let's go ahead and look at that now. Be careful of sharp edges.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see the cross brakes here? That came from the factory that way, but we were able to replicate that yesterday when we built those transitions. Okay, now I'm just going to do the same thing over again. I'm going to put one end in first, and they say that you should always drive these from one end and work your way down. Don't try to put the whole thing in at once.
All done.
All done. That's one. We've all heard of duct tape, but did you know that duct tape was never meant to be used on a duct? That's right. There's a special kind of tape for ducts called mastic tape, and it sticks to everything. But this is a mastic tape. It has a foil outside. It has a piece of plastic on the inside, but then underneath all of that is this kind of sticky, gooey stuff. And that sticky, gooey stuff is what's going to hold our duct together and keep the air inside. So I'm going to go ahead and just roll out a piece, and I'll probably cut it just a little bit short because I'm going to have to tape the corners anyway. It cuts with scissors, real nice. Like I said, it sticks to everything. I'm going to peel off the bottom layer. That's just a piece of black plastic. So what I do is I take this tape and I put it on about halfway, and I pull it nice and tight, and then just tack it on down here at the end. Now I can go back and smooth it out, and while I'm doing that, I can also start to roll it over the edge and push it down in place. Now I want to make sure that I get the bubbles out of it, so I'm not pressing too hard just yet. Now I just take some nice, flat, smooth object and just start pressing it down. And the pressing down is important because it helps to seat the mastic down in there and helps it to stick long term. The other thing it does for us is it smooths out the wrinkles and makes it look really nice and gives us a professional looking job. When we bought this house 3 years ago, we didn't expect to be doing HVAC work like this, yet here we are. But I'd say it's been a productive couple of days. We got these 2 boxes built from scratch. You can see on the floor there's some flat sheet metal there, and that's how we started these and ended up with those. Now those 4 ducts, those were manufactured. We just bought them and assembled them, and you know, they work.
Yeah, they worked.
Yeah, they work good.
We got them put together pretty quickly.
Yep, and I think these will work great too. So
I do too.
we will somehow put that all together and make the system work. But I think it's been productive, and I think that's where we're going to let this episode go. And next time we get together, we'll do some more duct building, and then maybe we'll put some in.
Ooh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching 1834 Restoration House.